In Romania, the dead don't always stay buried. There are villages where graves are chained shut, where families still whisper the word strigoi, the restless dead, in the same tone you'd use for a curse. And once, not centuries ago, but in 2004, a man was dug up, his heart removed, burned, and fed to his family because they believed he was drinking their blood from beyond the grave. This isn't myth. It's a modern autopsy of fear. Long before Hollywood ever imagined a vampire, Eastern Europe already had one. The word strigoi comes from ancient Slavic folklore, from striga, meaning screeching one. They weren't seductive or elegant. They were filthy, bloated, and hungry. A strigoi wasn't born, it was made. A soul trapped in its corpse, damned by unfinished business or improper burial. In old Romanian villages, death wasn't the end. It was an open question. If someone died violently, unbaptized or cursed, people feared they wouldn't rest, so they watched. If animals refused to walk past a grave, if milk soured overnight, or if a loved one appeared pale and weak for no reason, suspicion began, and once that whisper started, it spread like wildfire through the village. Because belief is contagious, and fear is the perfect host. If you love uncovering the psychology behind old legends that still breathe, subscribe before something else does. According to legend, a strigoi doesn't rise from the grave like in movies. It starts small, whispers in dreams, footsteps on the roof, livestock dying without wounds. Then, you see it. A shadow standing just outside the window. A familiar face with unfamiliar eyes. Folktales say these revenants were drawn to family first. They'd knock 3 times on the door, and if you answered before the 3rd knock, your name was next. That's why Romanian families left mirrors covered, doors sealed, and garlic at the threshold, not to repel, but to remind the dead they were no longer welcome. It's fascinating, right? These rituals weren't random. They were community psychology, a way to control the uncontrollable, to give chaos a name. So, what happened when a strigoi was suspected? People acted. There's a ritual described in ethnographic records from the 18th and 19th centuries. The villagers gather at dusk, often on a Sunday. The body is exhumed, the air thick with the smell of decay and fear. If the corpse looks too fresh, or if blood is found around the mouth, it's proof. The heart is cut out, burned, the ashes mixed in water, and that water is drunk by the family. It sounds horrific, but in the psychology of the time, it was salvation. The act symbolically killed the infection of the undead. It returned power to the living. And this wasn't a story from a distant past. It happened again, in living memory. Settings. Use appropriate media. Use cloned voice format, 16.9.
In 2004, in the small village of Marotinu de Sus, an elderly man named Petre Toma died of natural causes. 6 weeks later, his niece fell ill, pale, weak, and terrified. She claimed Petre was visiting her at night. Others said they saw him too. A figure standing outside, silent with glowing eyes. The villagers did what their ancestors taught them. They dug him up, cut out his heart, burned it, mixed the ashes in water and gave it to his niece to drink. She recovered. The visit stopped, but word spread. Romanian police intervened. 6 villagers were charged with desecration of a corpse. They didn't deny it.
They said simply, "We had to protect her."
And maybe in their minds they did. If you're still here, you're part of the rare kind who listen to what most people would rather forget. Subscribe before the next story finds you.
When Christianity spread through Eastern Europe, it couldn't erase the old fears, so it baptized them instead. The church spoke of souls, salvation, and purgatory. But villagers still believed some souls never left the earth. The strigoi became both sinner and cursed. Holy water was added to old pagan rituals, crosses carved into coffins, exorcisms mixed with folk magic. This fusion, half faith, half fear, created something powerful, a myth that felt sacred and forbidden at the same time. That duality is why it survived while others faded. It wasn't just about death, it was about control over what happens after. And that's something every human culture has tried to answer.
You might think all this is superstition. But here's the strange part. In some Romanian villages, vampire belief never died. Anthropologists visiting in the early 2000s found graves still sealed with chains and crosses carved into thresholds. Some locals admit they wouldn't dare walk through the cemetery after sunset. It's not ignorance, it's tradition, a generational memory of something dark that once walked among them. And here's the psychological truth. Belief in monsters is rarely about monsters. It's about control, a way to explain sickness, death, and fear in a world without answers. When science can't comfort you, myth steps in. The strigoi wasn't just a creature. It was a mirror of guilt, grief, and the need to believe your loved ones never truly leave.
Modern scholars think the vampire panic had roots in biology. Rabies, which made people fear water and bite. Porphyria, which made sunlight lethal. Decomposition gases that caused corpses to groan or appear fresh long after death. Every symptom of vampirism has a scientific explanation, but the legend survived anyway. Because the science didn't replace the story, it just made it realer. If a disease could make you drink blood or fear light, what if something darker could too? So maybe vampires aren't gone. They've just evolved. They left the graves for books, screens, and streaming platforms. We turned them from fears into fantasies. But somewhere in rural Romania, an old woman still hangs garlic on her door. And if she hears knocking 3 times after midnight, she won't answer, because for her, the dead never stopped walking.
If you made it this far, congratulations. You've just survived Romania's oldest legend. Now I want to know, would you open the grave or leave it closed? Comment below what you'd do if someone you loved came knocking after death. And if you crave more stories where myth meets psychology, hit subscribe, because some legends don't end when the story does.